I used to believe I had the perfect marriage. For 10 years, my husband Daniel and I built a life that felt stable, safe, almost too good to question. We weren't flashy or dramatic. We were simple, comfortable, the kind of couple people pointed at and said, that's what love should look like. And maybe that's why I never saw it coming. It started on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. No arguments, no warning signs, no gut feelings screaming that something was wrong. Just silence in the house and a bit of curiosity that I wish I could take back. Daniel had left for work in a hurry that morning. He forgot his watch, which was unusual for him. He was always precise, always careful. I went into the bedroom to grab it so I could drop it off later. That's when I noticed the drawer, the one he always kept locked. Except this time, it wasn't. I stood there for a moment, staring at it. My heart started beating faster for no clear reason. I told myself it was nothing, just paperwork, like he always said. But something in me, something quiet but persistent, told me to open it. And the moment I did, everything I believed about my husband shattered. My name is Sarah. And 10 years ago, I fell in love with a man who made me feel safe in a way I had never experienced before. Daniel wasn't loud or overly charming. He didn't try too hard. He was steady, calm, and predictable, qualities that felt rare and valuable after the chaos of my early 20s. We met at a mutual friends gathering. I remember how he listened more than he spoke, how he noticed small things about me that others overlooked. Within months, I felt like I had known him my entire life. Our relationship moved naturally. No drama, no games. 2 years later, we got married in a small ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. It wasn't extravagant, but it felt genuine. Over the years, we built routines, morning coffee together, occasional weekend trips, quiet nights watching movies. He worked long hours in finance, but he always made time for me when it mattered, or at least that's what I believed. Looking back now, everything feels too perfect, like a carefully constructed version of reality. There were no major fights, no serious doubts, just a steady rhythm of life that made me feel secure. And maybe that was the problem. Because when everything feels perfect, you don't look for the cracks. If I'm being honest, there were signs, small, almost invisible things that didn't make sense at the time. But when you trust someone completely, your mind finds ways to ignore what doesn't fit the picture. The drawer was one of those things. Daniel always kept it locked, not aggressively, not in a suspicious way, just casually, like it was normal. I remember asking him about it once, early in our marriage. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and said it was just old documents he didn't want to lose. I didn't push. Why would I? There were other things too, occasional late nights that didn't quite add up, calls he would take in another room, speaking in a lower voice. Once or twice, I caught a look on his face, like he was somewhere else entirely. But every time I noticed something, I explained it away. He's just stressed from work. He's tired. I'm overthinking. Trust can be blinding like that. It doesn't just make you believe someone, it makes you defend them, even when something feels off. So I never questioned him, not seriously, until that Tuesday, until that drawer finally opened and refused to stay a secret anymore. My hands were shaking before I even touched anything inside the drawer. I didn't understand why. It was just a drawer, just old paperwork, right? But the moment I slid it open, I knew something was wrong. There were no documents neatly stacked like I expected. Instead, there were photographs. Dozens of them. Some old, some recent. I picked one up, a woman, smiling, standing next to Daniel. My chest tightened. I grabbed another and another. In every photo, it was the same woman. And then I saw the child, a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, laughing, holding Daniel's hand, sitting on his shoulders, looking at him the way children look at their fathers, with complete trust and love. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. No, I whispered, even though there was no one there to hear me. Under the photos, there were letters, envelopes, some opened, some still sealed. My name wasn't on them. His was, and one word kept appearing again and again: Dad. That's when my world stopped making sense. I sat on the floor for what felt like hours, surrounded by pieces of a life I never knew existed. My mind was racing, trying to find a logical explanation that didn't destroy everything I believed. Maybe it was a relative's child. Maybe it was something from his past that didn't matter anymore. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation, but deep down, I already knew the truth. The photos weren't old memories tucked away and forgotten. Some of them were recent, very recent. The little girl looked older in certain pictures, like time had been passing without me ever knowing she existed. There were receipts, too, small ones, crumpled at the edges, toys, clothes, school supplies. This wasn't a secret from the past. This was a life happening in parallel with mine. And suddenly, everything started to connect. The late nights, the vague explanations, the distance I couldn't quite define. It wasn't work, it was them. I felt sick, not just from the betrayal, but from the realization that I had been living beside a stranger for 10 years. 10 years, and I had no idea who my husband really was. That night felt unreal. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just waited. When Daniel walked through the door, he greeted me the same way he always did: calm, casual, unaware that everything had already changed. I didn't say a word. I just placed the photos and letters on the table. For a moment, he didn't react. Then his face changed. It was subtle, but I saw it. The shift, the realization that the truth he had hidden for years was no longer safe. Explain this, I said, my voice quieter than I expected. He sat down slowly, like his body had suddenly become heavy. He looked at the photos, then at me, and in that moment, I saw something I had never seen before: fear, not guilt, not regret, fear. He took a deep breath, like he had rehearsed this moment in his head 1,000 times, but never thought it would actually happen. And then he said the words that confirmed everything: That's my daughter. I thought that was the worst part. I was wrong. Daniel told me everything, at least everything he chose to admit. Before we met, he had been in a serious relationship. They had a child together. Things fell apart, and he left. But he didn't leave completely. He stayed connected, quietly, secretly. For 10 years, he had been living two lives. He told me he didn't want to lose me, that he was afraid I wouldn't accept his past, that he thought it was easier to keep everything separate. Easier. That word echoed in my head, because there was nothing easy about what he had done. And then came the part that broke me in a way I didn't expect. He hadn't just been sending money. He had been visiting them regularly, weekends, business trips, late nights, all those moments I trusted him. He was somewhere else with another family, not just a secret, a whole life hidden in plain sight. I didn't argue. I didn't try to understand. There are moments in life where everything becomes painfully clear, and no explanation can fix what's already broken. I looked at him, the man I had loved for a decade, and realized I didn't recognize him anymore. Maybe I never did. Why didn't you just tell me? I asked quietly. He didn't have a good answer, and honestly, I don't think one exists. Because love built on lies isn't love. It's performance, it's illusion. That night, I packed a small bag, not out of anger, but out of certainty. There was nothing left to hold on to. 10 years of memories suddenly felt like scenes from someone else's life. As I walked out the door, he called my name, but I didn't turn around, because sometimes the truth doesn't destroy your life. It reveals that what you were living was never real to begin with.